Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to AJ Elicit's channel, the live stream. I don't know how to start these things. I never do. But I got a couple stories that I came across. I just looked at the news. Some of the first things that I saw, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about this, but they're still running with the whole Covington school thing still. Like, I don't believe, I honestly, I don't believe it, but McLean's has a part in an opinion piece that they released today, or actually it was yesterday. Yes, a MAGA hat is a symbol of hate, but they're still pushing this idea that it's the exact same thing as a Ku Klux Klan hood. And also this guy tells a story that I'm pretty sure he's making up, because this doesn't sound like something that happens in Canada. I've never seen a neo-Nazi in Canada myself. I've never seen a skinhead, a guy dressed with like leather and those boots and a shaved head. Like, I've seen people with shaved heads and stuff, but they weren't neo-Nazis. But apparently in Canada, they're everywhere. It's like the other biggest threat. And also, the CBC wrote an article today about incels and how they are a big threat, and we need to take them more seriously, which is bullshit, right? Hey, Claude, how's it going? Red suspenders, right? There's also a couple Antifa that were on video attacking some old people. And, I wonder if this is going to become international news, like that Covington kid staring at a native guy. I wonder if it's going to get the same attention, but, I have a feeling it won't. Hey, Nova, how's it going, buddy? Thank you for joining. I'll wait a little bit. Looks like there's only 3 people in here so far, but I didn't really give much notice. I gave like 3-4 minutes, and the notifications and stuff don't really work that well in YouTube. It seems like a lot of the times you don't get the notifications, and people have asked them about this, and they're like, well, we make it so you only get some of them, so you don't get spammed with notifications. But it's like, what's the point of having it then if you're going to decide who gets what? Or like, oh, here comes Rance Derek. That guy's a racist. At least I'm not a racist. I'd rather be an incel than a racist, right? But how's it going, man? Hope you're having a good night so far. But, if you wear a MAGA hat, then essentially you are a Nazi, according to this McLean's article here, though. Andre Domis, a person openly signals kinship with Donald Trump when they put on that garish red hat in public. Trump, who once referred to African nations as shithole countries. And I'm pretty sure there's no evidence for him ever saying that. There is people saying that he said that. They're like, oh, I heard him say in a room that these countries were shithole countries. But even if he did say that, it's not like it's untrue, right? And it doesn't mean you're racist to say, oh, this country is a shithole. Well, is it a shithole? Well, if it is a shithole, then it's perfectly fine to say that. What's incel, AJ? AJ, define incels. Well, I guess there's a couple of different types of incel type people, but because I saw this one guy who was criticizing Sargon when he came out talking about incels and how they can get girlfriends. And he's a guy that he says he classifies himself as something different, whereas like, and then incels are more the guys that I guess hate women more and whatnot. But, there's guys who can't get laid, essentially. They call themselves involuntary celibates. So, and some of them have been laid, but I don't know. It's kind of confusing. I don't understand them perfectly well myself, but a lot of them just seem like lonely dudes who can't get laid, essentially. And yeah, a lot of them are mad about it. A lot of them do talk about that whole incel or that whole Chad and Stacy thing and go on about that bullshit. And it is pretty, it's pretty sad, honestly, to see some of these incel things, like read their forums and whatnot. Oh, incels don't get laid. Incels don't get laid. Yeah, they're like involuntary celibates or something, but this is supposed to be the new threat. Let's not worry about Islam. Let's worry about these guys who are lonely and can't get women and make fun of them and shit, essentially. Or they can get laid but can't get a woman to their liking, so they get bitter. Yeah, that seems to be kind of a thread with a lot of them too, is that they have very high standards and they're like, oh, she has to be this and all this, and then they don't get women and they get mad about it. I really don't see the big deal. I think I would wear one of those hats just to piss off a liberal snowflake. Might be the fun of, yeah, right. A lot of people probably do wear them just to alienate or to piss off a liberal, but at the same time, it's the liberal who's getting mad about it for no reason. It is supporting Trump, but what do you expect? He's the fucking president. He is a political candidate. Of course, there's going to be people that support him and that are going to wear the hat. Doesn't mean it's a, aligning it with a white hood is crazy to me. Yeah, MAGA hats are a symbol of hate. Well, this is according to McLean's. This is what they're saying. Yes, a MAGA hat is a symbol of hate by this Andre Domis, this black guy. But he goes on, he's like, and he goes on with this fake story. A few years ago, a very close friend of mine was hailing a cab off Spadina Street in a downtown Toronto. He, a tall and broad-shouldered black man, I don't know why he had to add in, a tall and broad-shouldered black man was on his way to a social event with an acquaintance, a blonde white woman. Oh yeah, of course she was a blonde white woman. They were both well-dressed for nightlife, which is a normal sight for that neighborhood on a Friday evening. What was not normal, however, was the gaunt white man approaching them, wearing Doc Marten boots. Just the stereotypical skinhead, a bomber jacket, and a clean-shaved scalp. My friend registered danger just before the skinhead opened his mouth twice. First to shout, "Don't trust that," he put the N-word, right, at the blonde woman, and again to spit in my friend's face. So, he's yeah, so the black guy didn't do anything after that. He just kept walking and didn't say anything, didn't fight him back. Like, come on, man. That's not believable. Being a dark-skinned man whose personal experience with hate crime stretches back to his childhood, when he was introduced to that ugly word right after being shot in the head by a white teen armed with a pellet gun. So just more stories that we can't back up, that we don't know are true if he's just making this shit up. My friend didn't need to have a conversation to assess the character of the man before the assault happened. He knew right away he just encountered a skinhead, a self-ordained social enforcer who believes a human species can be ordered by a racial hierarchy, one which places black people like us below the cutoff. So he's essentially saying that, like, when you see a Trump hat, right away that this guy is a racist and pretty much everything about him. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to talk to the person. Immediately when you see a Trump hat, they are a racist bigot and they need to be like shut down. But if the man hadn't given the game away with the racial slur, it would be ridiculous to try to convince my friend that was perhaps not a hate crime. When a person wearing the visual markers of a neo-Nazi passes every other human being on a busy street without incident, but singles out a black man and a white woman for violence, there aren't many questions to be asked. So he's like, oh, is it just obvious racism, this fake story that this guy is making up right now? Feminists are female incels. MAGA hats are a symbol of hate. Fat, balding, unemployed gamer living with mom at 40 wants Victoria's Secret model. Yeah, didn't you hear them on the video? Look at the hat. Look at the hat. Right, swastika tattoo on his tongue. It's like they're all suffering from PTSD when a hat can sell it all off. Right. Right. You know, it's like if a hat triggers you that much, then it speaks more about yourself and your own level of sanity and able to control yourself. You can't control yourself because you see somebody wearing a Trump hat. Like, oh, you're pretty much wearing a Nazi hood. I need to like shut you down, attack you. I'm going to assume the worst about you. You know, yeah, that just means you've bought into the propaganda. But so swastika tattoo, AJ. So men who never married and have kids can be labeled as incels. No, I think those guys are more like MGTOW or something, like men going their own way. So those are men who have like had relationships with women, but are now choosing no longer to either be in long-term relationships. Like a lot of them, they'll still bang women or fuck women, but they won't no longer have like a long lasting relationship with them. Right. But incels, you know, those ones that just can't get women essentially, like to begin with, a lot of them, or they have very high standards. That's why they can't get women. Like there's many reasons why they can't get it, but you know, they blame it. They're like, oh, it's because my chin isn't big enough and it's blah, blah, blah. And I'm not a Chad, so no woman will like me, yada, yada, yada. Hey man, controversial going up against CCN. Rainey is giving all his money to Fred. Sorry, what's going on? Controversial going up against CCN. Is that another stream that's going on right now or a channel? I'm not sure. Smaller group is cool though. Men who want to get laid and they aren't getting laid. If they are getting one night stands, they aren't incels. Right. Yeah. I need to get one of those hats, you know, to own the libs. Yeah, I want to get one of those hats too, honestly, just to see people's reactions because it would be funny. Make Alberta great again. There's another twist to it. Are you sure that is the chin? Yeah, I think that is one aspect, but I look at the story a little bit more. You know, so he's like, so yeah, it's like a black man or a white woman for violence. There's no questions to be asked. And yet supposedly sensible people in the media outlets are willing to debate themselves by proposing that the Make America Great Again hat, that bright red beacon of racialized aggrievement, is somehow not a hate symbol. The perennial conversation bubbled to the surface again this week after an altercation between members of the Omaha Nation led by longtime activist Nathan Phillips and a mob of students from now infamous, like look at this, the way this guy writes, from now infamous Covington Catholic High School. So a mob of students, really, like the media, man, it's just they're despicable. They definitely are the enemy of the people. This is how they frame things. Still, after all the information came out, after this Nathan Phillips has been come out to be a proven liar, they're still gonna go to the story and frame it like, oh, this mob of students were so racist, and then they'll be like, oh, it's an opinion piece. We don't agree with everything they're saying. But in a nearly 2-hour video shot at the Lincoln Memorial, students wearing MAGA hats shouted at the elders, danced mockingly, and petitioned pantomimed tomahawk chops. One of them, Nick Sandman, made his way to the front of the crowd to stand. So this is a lie. Like, this is fake news. Made his way to the front of the crowd. If you watch the video, the Nathan Phillips guy approached him. He didn't make his way to the front of the crowd. He was standing still, and Nathan Phillips approached him. He made his way to the front of the crowd to stand almost nose to nose with Nathan Phillips and smirk in his face. So this is all fake news, as the elder drummed and sang the American Indian Movement song. So it's like, oh, but guys, he was singing the Indian Movement song, so clearly he couldn't have done something bad. I was thinking that. Okay, man. By now, non-white groups are all too familiar with hate groups and what they're about. The similarities in their tactics is not an accident. Hate groups typically construct an extremist kinship through shared values, language, and an aesthetic that serves a twofold purpose: to visually signal themselves to allies and to let their enemies know they intend harm. So, that's crazy, man. The media is really trying to frame anybody who's wearing Trump hats as somebody who is trying to commit harm to people. The skinhead aesthetic, black boots, weathered denim, suspenders, and shaved heads is one of these. Proud Boys, khakis, beard, and a Fred Perry polo shirts are another. So now Proud Boys are a hate group equivalent to skinheads, really. Proud Boys, like a multi-ethnic group of guys, really. The good news is nobody watches NBC, and even less watch the Combi News Network. Right, and that's going to continue to happen. Hopefully, as the newer generation, younger people, they don't care as much. They don't watch the news like the older generation does. They, get a lot of their news from different sources and shit. Oh, I actually found a video where they were like, let's go teach them a thing or two about making America great or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. There was something like build the wall. There was one video with this one girl that was like, see, they're saying build the wall. But you don't know what that blonde girl said to all these groups of kids with the MAGA hats before they passed them, right? I have a good feeling that she was probably, the group of girls looked at them and said something like, fuck Trump or something about their MAGA hats. So then in response, they're going to yell, like, build the wall, and troll them. And then they're going to film it and say, oh, see, they were saying build the wall. They were saying make America great again. But, in the actual video that everybody saw with the Native American guy, nobody was saying build the wall or anything like that. And even if they were, who cares? People say that because they know it trolls fucking liberals. Yeah, the kids were told to go back to Europe. Nobody's talking about that. But it's okay to be racist towards white people. But so this guy is trying to make it seem like Proud Boys are equivalent to skinheads. So these aren't political organizations that happen to attract the occasional radical or unpolished community groups that happen to have a large platform. There is no driving socio-political force behind these movements outside of white nationalist identity or ideology, which is why they're designated hate groups, and they understand this, which is why they've spent so much time lately cultivating an everyman aesthetic. Even David Duke famously tried to rebrand the Klan with a kinder, gentler image before leaving in frustration that the message wasn't catching on. His movement had long passed beyond the plausible deniability of their motives. We know this, yet when people quite logically connect the people who wear MAGA hats with the white supremacist ideology of Donald Trump, this is considered painting with too broad a brush. The same Donald Trump who egged on violence against black protesters at his rallies. So one time he said something about a protester that showed up there, and he shouldn't have said that. Stereotype Mexicans as rapists. This is fake news. He said illegals. Referred to African and African descended nations as shithole countries. Referred to Senator Elizabeth Warren as Pocahontas, whereas she lied about being an Aboriginal, first of all, and for years has rattled off a near endless litany of ad-libbed comments that place him squarely in the white nationalist camp. That is the Donald Trump with which a person openly signals kinship when they put on that garish red hat in public. So, essentially, we all know what he's saying. If you wear the Trump hat, you are a white nationalist and support the white ideology. But they've been pushing this for a long time. But this is in Canadian news in Maclean's. So this is the last thing. So when a restaurant manager refuses to serve a MAGA hat wearing patron, or Omaha elders confront a crowd of MAGA hat wearing students to try to diffuse an escalating conflict before it gets out of control, they're not making assumptions out of whole cloth. Neither is Alyssa Milano, that whore who tweeted, "The red MAGA hat is the new white hood." they're justifiably responding to the way my friend responded to that skinhead moments before that skinhead spat in his face. So probably this interaction that never happened. Like I said, I've never seen a skinhead in Canada in my life. And the way decent people should be expected to respond to those who publicly align themselves with hate movements, if the people who wear that hat feel unfairly maligned, that's just plain unfortunate for them. Maybe they should examine their politics in their own hearts. In other words, if the hood fits, wear it. So, like fuck you, you piece of shit. Like Andre Domis, with your stupid last name, is a Toronto-based freelance writer. He has contributed to several publications and is the co-host of the cultural podcast Black Tea. So, probably just pushing more of a victim class Marxist narrative in Canada that, the same shit that are pushing all over the rest of the world in America and all this shit. But yeah, that's the one story. I'll put it in the chat here. You can check it out because, fuck McLean's. There's so much fake news in Canada. I don't trust literally any of our broadcasters, any of our news agencies. Like the National Post, all these supposed right-wing networks and stuff. Think what you want of rebel media and stuff, but they're still better than a lot of the shit that we get fed and a lot of these opinion pieces that are on Maclean's and stuff, right? It's terrible. Now CBC is pushing why incels are a real and present threat for Canadians. So, and also, in this, they bring up like Muslim extremism in Canada and how there's only been 7 attacks, but they don't consider like the Danforth shooter Muslim extremism. They don't consider a lot of these other attacks extremism unless they can prove a definite link between them and ISIS or something like that. So it's, but all these loose connections to white ideology and stuff that they're making in this article with CBC, they can say, oh, this is all related to right-wing ideology, all these deaths and murders and killings, yada, yada, yada. One terrorist attack are one too many. I'm a 2000 kid, and trust me when I say Generation Z is sick of these SJWs and leftist tactics. Yeah, I agree. I see lots of kids that are younger that make fun of this shit all the time, right? Like there's all those kids in school, they did like the Nazi salute thing or something, but that was all obviously in jest and lets you know that they don't take these things so seriously. They're not so politically correct. They're obviously not Nazis and shit, but they thought it would be funny, right? And it became a national headline because we're all so afraid of these incels and these Nazis and all this crap when really it's like we should be worrying about the threat of Islamic terrorism, our country's being replaced, the increase in crime rate that immigration is going to bring to our cities. But no, let's worry about white incels that can't get laid and shit. You're like, in some circumstances, yeah, like some of those people are going to go out and potentially kill people and shit because they're like so like, oh, fuck women and fuck all this shit. But it's like, why are these people doing this? Why are they going out and killing people? And a lot of times, a lot of the examples that they bring up in this article, the police could have stopped them many times, or they like what's his name, that Cruz kid. The only reason he got off was because of Obama's policies that gave kids a slap on the wrist. So then he was able to pass the background check, and then he was able to kill a bunch of people. Same with a lot of these other people that end up murdering people. The examples they bring up in this article, a lot of them, Nicholas Cruz, yeah, could have been stopped if the FBI, if the the certain protocols were actually followed, which they weren't. And like there was those cops that didn't go in. and that stayed outside while all those students were being killed. So there's the aspect of allowing people to arm themselves as well to defend themselves against these people. But their solution is take all the guns away, and everything is going to be better. I think it was the CIA who did it, and then they framed him for it, but possibly. But I don't think so. I think that maybe I don't know, but it makes sense that people will. There are lots of crazy people, and if there's actually people around in these people's lives to sound the alarm, these things could be stopped. But you got teachers and teachers unions in these schools that don't give a shit about the students, or that have their hands tied behind their backs because of the new policies. Like I said, that this school that Obama and Eric Holder implemented to like 50 different schools, that gave kids like Nicholas Cruz and other minority kids, because he was Cuban and stuff, a slap on the wrist when they did bad shit. So then they didn't get a check on their record and whatnot. But because if they actually did, because he had done many things before this that could have got him, that could have stopped him from getting a weapon, that could have got him help and put him in a facility and all this shit. But everybody just kind of like looks the other way, does absolutely nothing. But they're going to blame that. They're not going to talk about any of that. But so increase in violence has criminologists sounding alarm. It all began with a Facebook post on January 19th, 2019. A Colorado man named Christopher Cleary took to social media and laid out a plan for an attack that was coming together in his mind. I'm 27 years old. I've never had a girlfriend before, and I'm still a virgin, Cleary wrote. This is why I'm planning on shooting up a public place soon and being the next mass shooter. In this case, police tracked him down en route to a women's march in Utah before he was able to carry out his plan. But it doesn't always work out that way when men who identify themselves as incels or involuntary celibates post such thoughts online. In April 2018, Alec Manassian allegedly drove a van into pedestrians in Toronto, killing 10 and injuring 16 others. Before the attack, a post prepared on Manassian's Facebook account that said the incel rebellion has already begun. Involuntary celibates or incels are an online brotherhood of men who say they are unsuccessful in their romantic attempts with women. Incels interact in forums online like 4chan, Reddit, all that crap, social media, Facebook. They often express extreme feelings of misogyny and hatred. In the worst case, their online misogyny turns to violent fantasies, where many online encourage rape, violence, and in some cases killing. Expert interviewed by Fifth Estate have identified 120 instances of extreme violence in Canada by right-wing groups, including incels, in the past 30 years. So in the past 30 years, there was 120 instances of extreme violence in Canada by right-wing groups, including incels. This is compared to only 7 by Islamist-inspired extremists. So, the way they're framing this right here. So first of all, there was a much lower group, there was a much smaller percentage of Muslims in Canada, especially within these 30 years, compared to white people or right-wing people in Canada. And like I said, they only said 7 instances. Well, I was looking at an article the other day, they showed those 7 instances. And like I said, the Danforth shooter wasn't considered in there. A lot of these other people that get off on mental illness are not considered in there either. So, these numbers are skewed. Plus, they're still disproportionately more likely to do it. And they're lumping in the incels with the other right-wing violence. And it's like, I really like to look at all these instances of all the things they've accumulated throughout the last 30 years of right-wing violence and stuff. I really like to see that, because like I said, that the Manassian guy who killed these people, he's going to be considered right-wing because he was an incel. Well, how do you know his ideology? How do you know he's not a left-winger? You know, he's not following the Young Turks and all these other people that a lot of other mass shooters did, or killers did before they went and killed people. But, you know, they're just going to lump them in with the right wing. It's like how far the left deems everything to the right of itself alt-right. Yeah, exactly. You know, everything is right to them. You know, incel kills somebody, automatically they're a right-winger regardless of knowing their ideology. You know, incel is just literally somebody who can't get fucking laid. Many medications for depression cause myself. Family life is not from, oh, sorry, cause psychopathy and suicidal ideation. Right. You know, like a lot of these drugs say on them that, you know, they cause this type of behavior, but nobody wants to address these two because that's a huge industry with a lot of money involved. So no, they're just going to blame, it's easier just to blame white people. And, you know, because in this article, they mentioned that's, yeah, specifically white men that are doing this. So it's just another way to attack them and to be like, you know, oh, there's nothing else in society that could be driving this to happen more, right? Whenever Islamic people kill a bunch of people, we're like, oh, well, you know, could it be because we were racist to them because we didn't include them enough? But when it's an incel or something that kills somebody, they're like, oh, he's just deficient and this and that. You're like, well, maybe they have something right about kind of like, you know, some of their criticisms about feminism and the way that things are running now. Because, yeah, like a lot of them are pitiful and stuff, but some of their criticisms when it comes to like, you know, women and men today, and like the whole Chad Stacey thing, like there's some of credence to that, especially with the advent of feminism and you know, the social safety net and stuff that allows people to just be degenerates, right? And to have sex with just the Chads, you could say, and kind of exclude all the other men. Like this is true. Like these things do happen, and it will increase the rate of killings. Like this probably will, like, you know, like that we haven't seen the end of these types of killings and stuff from people who do identify as incel and stuff, because right now the way society is running, with feminists running on like, you know, governing the way society works, we're going to get more and more men that are incels because, like I said, you know, like women have more options now, and that's a good thing, I guess. But I'm just like, you know, I'm not for doing what they want. Some of these guys, they want like white Sharia and shit, which is hilarious. But there is a truth. There's truth that, you know, nowadays and stuff, and like what people are feeding to women, saying like, oh, you know, be free and sleep with as many men as you can, and use up like kind of your youth, your good years, sleeping with as many dudes as you possibly can. And, you know, just, is that really what you want to do? Do you want to waste your best years doing that, sleeping with guys that are not going to stay around and stay with you, or, you know, want to find somebody that's more dependable, right? Like one of the reasons I think Muslim societies don't work so well is because there's polygamy, and that's what's kind of going on right now with feminism. It's like maybe that's why they like Muslims so much, because what they're essentially promoting is polygamy. Like, yeah, like a lot of guys, because women nowadays, they make more and more money, and women usually, they don't typically what do you call it, date down, right? That's just the truth. Usually women will date up. So if there are more and more women going to university and less men going to university, then less and less men are going to be appealing to women. So, you know, there's going to be a smaller and smaller pool, and a lot of women can kind of like deal with being in a harem. I'm not saying all women, but they can kind of like deal with that more than like a man can, right? Like it's harder for a man to share a woman with a bunch of other dudes than it is for like kind of like a woman to share you know, a celebrity guy that makes a lot of money with a bunch of other women, because they're like, well, you know, he's rich and he makes a lot of money, and you know, he's this or he's that and whatnot. But yeah, guys, they don't want to share their women with a bunch of other guys. So you know, there's going to be this hypergamy that is going on in society. So that, you know, that isn't good, because then you're going to have the whole polygamy thing essentially that is going on in Muslim communities. So there's going to be a bunch of men that aren't getting laid, and then they're going to be extremely angry and frustrated, and they're going to go out and do horrible fucking shit and potentially kill a lot of people. And you're like, well, you know, like, I'm not saying we need to go back to whatever, but you know, there is some truth to what some people are saying, right? Like, you'll know, China, Japan, and so on won't allow you to go into their countries and say, this is America town. From now on, you'll speak English and eat American food here and like it, cuz this is my culture. Right, you know, I kind of feel that way. Hey, Richard, how's it going, buddy? Even though Muslims want to eradicate Jews, Jews will be the first to defend Islam and political correctness. Hey, Gordon, how's it going, buddy? Yeah, you know, that's the funny thing. You know, I keep seeing these articles, and they're like, there's an article the other day where it was talking about the increase in anti-Semitism. I was going to read it, but the places that they mentioned where the increase of anti-Semitism, they're like, there's been a spike in Sweden, France, and the UK of anti-Semitism. And I'm like, well, what do you think is the thing that aligns all these three countries together? They've had a massive increase of refugees, Muslim refugees that don't really like Jews very much. And but they don't mention that in the article. They just say there's a rampant spike of anti-Semitism going around the world in Sweden and France and the UK. And then they don't even mention the massive increase of Muslims. And it's like, well, and they're trying to lead you to believe that it's a bunch of alt-right right-wingers that are behind all of this increase of anti-Semitism, where it's like, yeah, it's bullshit. AJ, did you hear about how they were teaching Muslims pro-LGBT stuff and the Muslims didn't like it? It was in Birmingham. Yeah, I think I saw something about that recently, just like a clip about it. I didn't even look into it, but yeah, that's going to happen, right? You know, that's going to continue to happen. I don't know how they're going to rationalize it with themselves, how they're not listening to them. But it's funny because Australians banned guns, and after the ban, all the guns were taken away and chopped up, and gun crime rate went up. Yeah, exactly. I know. I remember seeing something about that. Like, it went up, and it was like, you know, it was going down before they even remove guns to begin with. It was already heading down. It was statistics. That's what they do. The government always does this. They're like, oh, there's this problem we need to fix that is already fixing itself. Let's intervene and take all of your guns to solve this problem that is on the decline, right? Same with guns in America. There's like a declining gun rate, declining gun deaths, and there's only more because of their increasing diversity. Hey, Faye, how's it going? Conservatives nor liberals, as most put it. Instead, you have socialism, communism, progressive, and warhawk progressives. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's what we have nowadays to choose from. A lot of progressives and a lot of neocons and warhawks, pretty much. So like the Bushes are warhawks in America, whereas Clintons. Yeah, Canadian publisher charged with hate speech in historical court case in Toronto. Are you talking about the Euroward News case, where those guys are being charged with like anti-Semitism and anti-women, you know, laws? And there's also a guy from Quebec who was brought in front of the Human Rights Tribunal and was charged to pay something like $40,000 to this other disabled kid that he made fun of. AJ, Reformed Jews teach communism is as if it were the Jewish religion. I'm Orthodox. We have a few leftists in our community, but most are outspoken against the left. AJ, Reform Jewish teach communism as if it were the Jewish religion. Right. Yeah, right. Orthodox Jewish people tend to be more right-wing, right? That is true. But you know, Ben Shapiro is like Orthodox Jew, right? And the only thing I don't like about him is that he is a fucking globalist, and essentially to a large extent. And you know, he's a neocon, and he supports, you know, kind of anything to do with Israel. And he's like, oh, he always defends them no matter what they do. And I'm like, me personally, I think they should have never put Israel there to begin with. I think that they should have never made room for them to live in the middle of a bunch of Muslims. Like that was just a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. And doing that is resulting in problems to this day, right? So I think I have nothing against Jewish people or anything like that, but they should have never put Israel there, even if it's like the homeland according to the Bible or some shit. Like, I'm not fucking religious. I'm an atheist. I could that's all nonsense bullshit to me. So to say, oh, well, this is in the Bible, they were supposed to live here, and you're like, you know, that's not how it works. It's like people that were living there for thousands of years or like hundreds of years, and then, okay, now we're gonna live here, and you're like, okay. Right. Well, there was a two-state solution that was being proposed or something, you know, like the 1950s. I'm pretty sure for Israel, but I don't know. I just don't think living around a bunch of Muslims who want to take you over is a good idea, and who fucking hate your fucking guts, because now it's like now they're like, we need everybody's help because everybody wants to kill us, and if you don't stop giving us money, then we're gonna die because of Islam. Okay, did my thing freeze? Is it frozen? Oh, am I back? Is it back?